Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rob Loves Arguing. Civic holiday weekend, right? Civic holiday. Do we have a name for it?
Yeah, I had to look it up. Simcoe Day.
Simcoe Day. And that's to celebrate, I'm assuming, some homophobe who had slaves at some point.
I think it's just I think it's a lake. We're celebrating the lake.
I don't think that's like why.
No.
I mean, we're a province of so many great lakes. I couldn't imagine celebrating Lake Simcoe out of all the other that'd be like if we got the day off because Ringo Starr died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not. That doesn't really wholly make sense. We got it's a special little. Listen, some months just need holidays, and August is a month where you can't rely just on Canada Day. You got to get an extra one out there for the kids. You need to go to a camp. You need to have fun. You need to get out there. I went to Belleville yesterday, and I battled the traffic. My God, my war on the east end of the city continues. We could just do without it. I don't know if there's a way to put up a wall or charge them a toll. There's something we have to do. Something. The east end of Toronto is ugly and useless. Like I don't.
What's how east are we going to make it? Where's the wall?
Broadview, I've always said that Broadview is why. Are you technically?
I'm east of Broadview.
Yeah, but it's going to have to be V-shaped. You're also very north. I'm not saying that the part of your part of town can't burn too, but you're what by like the Aja Khan Museum kind of area.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. In a V shape. I think it could be basically. I just hate the Don Valley Parkway. It's never not busy.
It's terrible.
There's not a time. It's a death trap. It's the scariest highway. Like the scariest highway. Is that a highway?
Yeah, it's a highway. Yeah. I had to skip it on the way here. I just took regular streets.
It's usually like taking Kingston. Anyways, there's a little minutiae. So it was very trafficy out there. But I'll say the best gig I ever had in Belleville, and I've inordinately gigged in Belleville. And I booked by a 17-year-old kid, Jack.
Yeah.
Who, like a little booking protege, very autism just seeping out his fucking eyelids, but like really seems to care about the art. He books wrestlers too. He's got like a larger gig he's doing at a theater. He's an interesting gig, good gig. Had a little, had to deal with Dan. A fella named Dan at the show. Dan, if you're watching, and there's not a chance Dan has any idea what my name is or anything about the show. Dan got pretty hammered and kind of became part of the show. And then found out an interesting thing about Dan. Dan sells his cum. So
I know him.
Yeah. Dan the Cum Man.
Yeah.
No, he not. So I found out it's also not per load.
Okay.
He impregnated a lesbian couple in town, and if you met Dan, you'd be like, the shocking state of Belleville. That Dan was the choice that
Prime
they made.
meat.
Yeah. He twice lit a cigarette inside last night, not understanding that was unacceptable, and not even to be like genuinely just kind of forgot where he was twice in a row and just lit up a dart. So so there's a couple out there that are paying him for his genetics, which is fucking nuts.
Do you think they're so lesbian that they don't realize he's not attractive?
It's not. He was. I wouldn't even call him a good-looking kid, but I would say he probably is giving the markers of some problem behaviors you maybe don't want to pass on. Do you as an adopted child, do you completely believe in nature versus nurture? I think there's things that are both things. I think that there are certain traits that are one or the other. I'm really not like my adopted parents very much at all. My dad's quite a square. My mom's dead, which I'm not.
This is a ghost pod.
Yes, and Mom will be making an appearance on the show soon. When the new studio comes, we're gonna have a nice spot for Mom to hang out. But Yeah, no, I like. That's always a thing that is kind of in the back of my head at all times as a nurture versus nature thing. So like, I think there are definitely qualities that you pick up from both, but then you're also picking up things from both your parents, which kind of balance things out. And I think there's a period of time that we all sort of run away from our parents and kind of try to at least become the opposite, and then slowly realize that like we are them ultimately, which I get to not deal with in an interesting way. Like, have you like Jewish guys are cool when they're like 20 and 30, you know what I
Sure.
mean? But inevitably you become Jewish, right? Like
You just harden into a more Jewishy ball.
You almost soften into it, I would say. There's there's something sort of happens that you whatever. If you're Irish, eventually you beat your wife and become an alcoholic.
Sure.
No matter how much we go through to not be that guy, there's a point where you eventually you don't, anyways. But I don't know. So I am like, of course, there's qualities that I picked up from my mom and dad, and there's qualities that, like, if I ever found my birth parents, I might say like are from them. There's undisputable things that are nature, but I think like nurture is just hard to quantify in the same way because we can't look apples to apples. You can't look at adopted parents and birth parents and go, okay, well, their impact and their impact are weighted equally because the nature only has one shot, right? The nature, you shoot, it's one shot right inside your mom, and then that's your nature. Whereas nurture has a lot of... I was very much raised by a village in my upcoming. Parents divorced, remarried, but also very much an outside kid. Various parents out there that would have gone like, oh yeah, he's with my kid too. I had a lot of that growing up, so I can't really attach my nurture just onto my parents the same way I can attach my nature onto my birth parents. So it's kind of not fair. I think that's probably a good... I mean, I might be completely devaluing the entire science of eugenics or whatever. But yeah, no, it is... Like, that stuff tends to be... There was a Mensa... I read a book once about... There was a Mensa sperm donor clinic.
Yeah.
And now, of course, also there was a lot of fuckery about... Well, I mean, who gets into men... ultimately is not that interesting. And not surprisingly, there wasn't a whole lot of fellas doing really great in life that felt the need to donate their sperm to a sperm clinic. So you probably got a lot of fellas like Dan that are willing to donate their cum. By the way, Dan's origin story on donating the cum was his car got impounded. Mm-hmm. So I think it's beautiful that a DUI is sort of what brought that life into the world. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Like, it was sort of like Dan being plastered, and instead of, which is, by the way, is why you don't drive drunk, because a lot of times that story is you take a life out of the world if you drive drunk. What's beautiful about this fella Dan is that his drunk driving actually brought a life into this world,
sure,
right? Through his car being impounded and him needing the money to get his car out. So then he impregnated these lesbians. And so there's something sort of, kind of beautiful about that story ultimately.
Did he post this online? Like, how did they find him? Or he's a friend of the lesbians?
It's a small town. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't want to get into it too much, but I actually also know who the lesbians are, hilariously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyways.
Just picturing him with a sign outside saying,
Lauren,
we'll come
congrats.
for money.
Yeah. Like he's got a little... He's got a cup out, but instead of asking for change, it's a cup of his cum. Just like, check how viscous it is. Taste that. That's potent. So... Anyways, fun show. Thanks, Jack. Jack Slims in Belleville. Good time. I'm trying to... I guess we had court, which we haven't covered. I went back to court again for the double riding ticket. They gave me the wrong court They really are. I'm almost positive at this point that there is a government conspiracy to stop me from fucking fighting this goddamn double riding a bicycle ticket. I want to, just for the new listeners, let me recap everybody on what happened in this journey. I go to see Chance the Rapper Lost October 6th. We are on Cherry Street near the docks, the what is that called? A Rebel nightclub that Chance was performing at. And a Rebel nightclub. We were on our way to Rebel nightclub, and we got a double riding a bicycle ticket. We were on not a motorized bike, normal ding ding boop boop pedal bicycle, and we get pulled over on a bike path. I get a ticket for what he told me was, I believe he's going to change his story on this, and I'm a little worried it might get me, but we'll see ultimately. I have a good, and I don't even want to, because who knows, the off chance that they fucking listen to this. There's a piece of information that he's wrong about that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be fine with. Yeah. So he gives me after quite a kerfuffle, I get this double riding a bicycle ticket, and then the officer proceeds to then go into his police cruiser and hit me with it. And so all these steps I've had to go through because, and again, now I'm being told over and over again I'm wrong about a part of the procedure I went through, even though like the lady I dealt with had told me I had to do up and down again. And I want to tie this back into how I ended the episode last week about bail reform, because I think that like people have swung too hard on a thing that I think that a few years ago, if we didn't have these liberal bail reforms, people would be going like, oh yeah, that's crazy and we can't do that and whatever. It's just sometimes you lose sight of what the reason something happened was. So I got hit by this guy. I just want to, and this is not about bail reform exactly, but I do want to highlight the processes in which you have to go through to get anything done here. So I was instructed that I was supposed to allow the ticket to be judged against me so that I could, because the LECA, which is the board that investigates police, which by the way, as I figure out slowly, it investigates internally, which is not the way to go. If a cop hits you with your car, act hurt. It's the thing I didn't do. I just acted reasonably, and again, it went good. You hit me with your car, which is like the most me response in the world. So just act hurt. Yeah, it's not like, it's just not even worth it. On the way to Belleville yesterday, there was some Indian guys pulled over on the side of the road because they had gotten rear-ended. And I just rolled the window down to them and was like, your back hurts. Like, just get your money, kids. And but
I pre-bought those foam things you put around your neck just in case. I keep it in my car.
Yeah.
And then the second if I ever get rear-ended, it's on my neck right away.
I like the idea that you think that that's how you show that your neck hurts, is that you come out of the car with the neck brace already.
Yeah.
You're like, oh man, thank God I had this on. Oh, Amy Goodman, shut up, Amy Goodman.
Oh, it's
you gotta,
That's what's called a sneak peek.
Yeah. Man, Amy Goodman, I can't believe is still alive. But, anyways,
I don't even know her.
She's run Democracy Now! Forever, but that was like some shit I was watching, like to find out what I felt about Iraq. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
yeah. So,
anyways. You know, Trish has been watching my fiance. She's been watching Nancy Grace online recently, really enjoying Nancy Grace. This is a big case that everybody's talking about.
What's she on? Yeah, what's happening with the Grace?
Oh, this I didn't follow it enough. She's watching it, but some kid got killed, and maybe his friends that killed him, but they're like hiding it. Definitely a black kid, white neighborhood type of situation.
Got it.
But I don't know enough about it. I think his name is Colin. Okay. Anyway, I'm just watching Nancy Grace, and I'm like, it's fucking crazy she's still around. And also, even if she's right, she's such an asshole visually, audio-wise.
Yeah, there's really, it would be a very tough road for Nancy Grace to hoe back. You know, Nancy Grace is sort of who she is. And, you know, it's crazy to think that, like, all it took to get rid of Sally Jesse Raphael was one guy killing another person because they didn't like that they were gay and whatever. and that got that off the air. But Nancy Grace, not that anyone's necessarily been killed because of Nancy Grace, but she has put a lot of negative. I would say I'd say life ruiner is probably pretty safe to say, because it's not like Nancy Grace has a great batting average ultimately.
Oh, like for being right about something? Yeah.
Like it would, like, I don't think her batting average is so bad it wouldn't keep her into big leagues, but it should keep her off TV talking about human beings, probably.
But she's not on TV, though.
Oh, that's right. She's on the internet. So
you just hit YouTube. Just like, hey, and everybody likes him, but To Catch a Predator guy.
Chris Hansen, nothing wrong with the man.
Yeah. But he's on YouTube now.
Yeah. I think the Chris Hansen thing's more of just there was an exhaustion, and it's difficult to broadcast pedophile catching when you know that, like, the heads at this point of all of the networks are just in the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Like, there's something sort of disingenuous feeling, I think, about it being on networks now, where you're like,
Yeah.
pedophile catching presented by pedophiles. Like, it's odd. And the commercials are for pedophiles. Like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. I don't know this to be a fact, but whatever station that was on, I wouldn't be surprised it was owned by the same company that owned, like, Nickelodeon. That had a bunch of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think it's Viacom, and I think that actually might be correct, but I don't know 100% on that. Viacom, home of pedophiles. Can I say that? But anyways, so that was Belleville and Court. So I get hit. So I gotta let this court case be judged against me. Then I go to the LECA, where all we want is to see footage of this fucking car hitting me, and then, like, they just wouldn't show us that footage. And then because I had reopened the ticket, they had to suspend that investigation, which is why I let the ticket judge against me in the first place. I've been to court easily 4 or 5 times, not court, but like the court building. This last time. By the way, so this last one, they gave us the wrong place we had to go to. They told me to come back to the same building I was at, which is 10 Armory. Turns out I was supposed to go to this new one by St. Lawrence Market. Now, thankfully, St. Lawrence Market has a great P-Mail bacon sandwich. So it made the...
Carousel?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It made the trip a little better, but... we go to the wrong one. Man, let me tell you, the guy... I almost want to film a web series about the guy at the information booth in the Toronto courthouse. I just want to walk up to him and ask him questions all day. Not even pertaining to his job. Just, hey, what color are my pants? And then just, like, see, like, it's just crazy. He's standing under the word information. If there was ever a fella who needed to just sort of be away from the word information, it was this guy. He had none of it. He didn't want to talk. He couldn't communicate. He had empathetic eyes, I will say. It wasn't that he was mean or cold. He would have loved to have answered a question about the courthouse that he works at. Like, if he knew anything about the place he worked at the information booth at, he would have been over the moon, I think, to share that information with us. However, he knew not, like, he is like, it must be a temp situation. Like, I don't know if he's just there for the day or whatever, but you'd think that if you have a giant courthouse, one of the things you'd want to do, because remember, a lot of the people who have to come here are like rapists and lunatics and mentally unwell people and whatnot. And not that we're trying to overly inform the rapists, but they're, everyone's faculties are not necessarily the same in the situation. And so you'd think you would be like, we need to go heavy on the information, like, we want people to get to their trials. We want whatever. We should probably make it so that there is information available. And they have barked up the wrong tree with this fella. So we just sort of, I think we're luckily, like, someone kind of overhears the situation. Oh, I think we went up to another floor and there was just, like, an errant lawyer, like, just a lawyer about. And we kind of asked him a few questions. And then everyone's reaction to the double writing a ticket is very cathartic because everyone involved in the law process, aside from Officer Langan, seems to think it's fucking ridiculous that I received a double writing a bicycle ticket. So that's nice, at least. But he informed us roughly that we were probably in the wrong building and we need to get to 92 French Street near St. Lawrence Market. So we kick it over there. And we get into the big, enormous, like, everyone needs to see this building. It's like an entire second St. Lawrence Market with just nothing in it. There's no people. There's no market. There's nothing. There is a very small section to the right that is a part of a courthouse. And as we, like, I was running, I think I was like 3 minutes late or something for the time I was supposed to be there for. By the way, this is how important it was. By 3 minutes late, the lady had already come out. And as I was like emptying my pockets to go through the security, she was like, hey, don't worry about it. We already gave you a court date. Because this was like to get my next court date. September 18th, by the way, everyone. If everyone wants to know the closing saga of all. Not even. That won't even be the closing saga. Because once I actually have the tickets dealt with, now I got to go reopen the investigation into the officer again, which gets to be the fun part. Now, what's nice about this lady is she did give me the paperwork for discovery, which means we will get videos of everything. The dash cam, his cam. So that'll be fun. We might even just release that as its own 35-minute episode.
I thought about that, or go old school reaction video.
Yeah, we should probably. I should just do an episode where I watch the. Probably. So anyways, I'm a couple steps away now from something happening. So I just want to remind everybody when they talk about liberal bail reform, what you don't realize is the system just muddies you up and they keep you there for a long time. Now, there is an inverse thing that some people do. And this is maybe another thing that people should consider, how criminals also exploit similar things, right? Is that you can delay your trial also from the other side, right? So a lot of murderers will often try to delay their trial as long as possible because the hope is that the witness testimony becomes unreliable or maybe they die, right? So, like holding them, like being held there and delaying their trial, actually like kind of good for them. So, how long it can take to get to these things is like the real issue. Ultimately, if we had an expedient court system, then like maybe we could get back to bail the way it used to be, because then, yes, if you're going to be held there for 2 or 3 days, I mean, even still 2 or 3 days, man, is like, could be, I mean, that like, how many days could you tell your employer? So say again, you get hemmed up for something that you didn't do, right? But you're suspected on it. They have enough that they're going to fucking lock you up. They're going to, see what they can get, try to plea you out. How many days could you go to your employer and go, I'm in jail right now, and I don't have money for bail. So like I'm waiting for my trial, but how many days do you have of that?
So my company does criminal checks. So 2 issues there.
Yeah.
I probably could get away with like 5 days. I have vacation and stuff like that, but I'm also already probably being thought of being let go. Yeah. Might depend on the thing, but if I'm jailed for the crime, it's bad enough to be jailed for the crime.
Yeah. Which is a little unfair. You would actually have a good suit on your hands if they dismissed you before the trial. You should actually hope your company does that. Because if you didn't go to trial yet and your company fires you for that, you don't got to work for a bit. You just go ahead and sue that company. Everyone's just, it sucks, but we're basically just in a situation where the only thing that works in any way whatsoever is suing each other. And I want libertarians, again, to understand that's the world in which you're creating, is a world of just, all we do is just litigate against each other, because like that's just how you have to like do everything's entity and whatever. Like this ultra capitalist system ends up very suey, In a world where, socialism, you don't get a lot of frivolous lawsuits in socialism. You know what I mean? If you just have to redistribute the wealth anyways, probably not going to go through like suing for nonsense. But anyway, speaking of a court case, we spent some time this week in court with the good doctor, everyone's favorite scientist, Anthony Fauci.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of the?
So I didn't watch like in court. I listened to clips of someone reading out some of his journal entries.
Here, do you want that first clip there? Let's listen to this a bit, and I'll send this to you after. You can put it on so the fine folks at home. But let's just listen to a little bit of. You can start it there. I strategically.
Okay, gotcha.
Fast. Yeah, I don't want the New York Post.
Hearing on COVID-19 was bound to be full of heated moments and fiery questioning. But what actually unfolded shocked senators and viewers alike. Here are the 5 most jaw-dropping moments.
I mean, what a fucking crazy world we live in. That the headline has to be the 5 most jaw-dropping like, it can't just be like, hey, here's 5 things you should probably take away. Like, it is incredible the lack of seriousness we can deal with even this. I think before anything with any of this, it's like, the thing I take away from it the most is how short our attention span is. Like, the fact that even, like, conservatives have gotten on to, like, the tide is back into bail reform, right? Like, the new conservative thing is to point their cameras at drug addicts and be like, hey, drug addicts are bad, right? And but they don't even like they don't even take a second to just reinforce the idea that the whole reason we have the drug addicts is because of all of this. Like, and like, liberals need to take note of that too. Everything wrong with almost everything today could be solved if liberals, Dr. Tony as well, involved, apologized. Like, sincerely took a little moment of reflection, like everyone claims they do, and everyone meditates, but no one learns anything. Take a little moment of reflection and go, hey, we got a little overboard with that one. It was in the best of intention. Like, this guy pleads the fifth on everything, and you should have just been like, listen, everything I did because it was in the best of what we knew of the public interest. It's like, did we cut some corners? Did we do some whatevers? Did we diddly-do and diddly-dee? Like, be folksy about it, but be like, like, remember at the beginning of COVID, they told us masks didn't work? Remember it was all that masks didn't work? And then afterwards they were like, well, hey, the reason we said that was because we didn't know if we had enough for, like, our healthcare workers at the time, so we didn't want to, like, have people hoard them and then whatever. And it's like, first of all, just so now you got to do that. Now you got to come out and do that speech for the whole thing, right? But what you should have done in the first place is, instead of treating us like babies, you should have went, hey, and this is where government shit is good, and, like, just being all the goddamn time with everything doesn't actually work, is because people are selfish, right? And I know that people go like, oh, communism is bad because people are selfish. No. This is bad because people are selfish, because our leaders couldn't trust us to not hoard fucking masks when we knew that, like, nurses and people dealing with a crisis might need them. They couldn't just look at us like adults and go, hey, listen, like, we're pumping out as many masks as we possibly can right now, but for the time being, like, in the war, we, like, ration stuff in the world wars, like, factories became ammunitions and munitions, whatevers, and, like, we couldn't even just have a serious conversation with ourselves and go, let the nurses have some masks for a bit. They had to lie and then afterwards go, well, this is why we lied to you. And like even children don't respond well to this. I mean, I was one of those kids that I was a big why kid. Like I was never really completely satisfied with just this is how it is. I needed why. Why is that how it is? And I'll accept that. You give me I guess you could almost call it a curiosity. I think in a lot of ways it was looked at as shitheadery, but maybe it was also just my way of trying to understand the world a little bit. I just wanted to know why. Give me a good reason. If we're in a global pandemic and it seems like we should probably wear masks and you're telling me, no, don't wear masks, just tell me why. You don't have to, like, I can deal with it if you just give me a solid answer ultimately and whatever. And I think that most people in the world, and maybe it's not, maybe this is a thing that's deteriorated over time and maybe purposefully, maybe not. That's another podcast that I'm not a part of. You can see Tripoli for that. But like, I think like you just treat everyone out. I like to treat kids like adults. When I like not a baby, I'm not going to be like, here's some beer and walk around. But like a little kid likes, like, you know why little kids like uncles and shit a lot? It's because uncles treat little kids like adults because it's kind of silly to them. You know, you get to kind of go, hey, what are you going to work now? You whatever. You talk to them like a person because it's not your fucking kid and you don't ultimately care that much. And like, but that actually is kind of nice. And I think children respond well from a pretty young age when you talk to them, like, and you give them the why. Kids like wonder. Some kids are shy. Most kids probably do wonder why. They just are afraid of you, so they don't ask. And I was just never afraid to ask why to the detriment of my education. So, we need to just apologize for this and go like, hey, this is overstep. But the reason that there are all sorts of drug, if I open this window for long enough, you will hear somebody going out there is because of COVID. Like, that's not, and it's because of drugs or, you know, whatever. Of course, we can blame the drugs. We can go back to doing the war on drugs and go, or we can go, we shut the world down for 2 years, and this is what happens when you shut the world down for 2 years, which kind of brings us to this fella and the fact that, like, we can concentrate on the symptoms of what happened after this moment in our history, but like we're not 10 years past this. You know, like the thing started in 2020. Like we're 6 years beyond the beginning of this. A drama that lasted, even in the US, as much as I, you know, living in America didn't have to deal with it as much anymore, you're still in it. You know, the topic of conversation is still COVID every day. It's still like, you know, there's still, even if in New York City we worked around some of the rules and stuff, there were still the rules. Like, you still ultimately had to deal with all of that. So, we're basically 4 years removed from COVID, less than 5 for sure. And we're just sort of fine with it. Like the amount of people, and it's great that it takes us 5 years to get to having Anthony Fauci have to answer but not answer anything. Do you think they made it? Do you think that the secret Jews or whatever made it 5 years after? So because they knew he was going to plead the fifth on everything, you think it was some numerology they were trying to rub in our face?
I think it clearly must be an Italian. This is more of a mob thing. I mean, Fauci, isn't that Italian? He goes by Tony instead. I think we've underestimated. I think we've gone after the Jews enough. I think the mafia is back and kicking.
It would be fun.
They created COVID.
It would be. Remember, and you know, when COVID started, there was the stop hating Asians or whatever thing. And which nobody was doing. And but we should have, like, this should be like, if we do find out that like Fauci had more to do with the Wuhan lab, and if there was like some chicanery, this should turn on Italians. You're right. This should be a very anti-Italian moment.
And here's a conspiracy theory for you. In the news for a long time, we focused a lot on how many deaths in Italy.
We did care about Italy a lot during COVID.
They were probably trying to false.
This is probably because all of the bloodlines of Rome actually secretly rule the world. And am I doing a good Sam Tripoli podcast right now? I feel like that's like a pretty good connecting of the dots. Yeah, these are all old Roman bloodlines that now secretly run the world, which is why they had to get Anthony Fauci to be the face of it. Anyways, let's watch these jaw-dropping moments
of Americans watching when he pleaded the fifth over and over again during the hearing.
Given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Fauci went on to invoke the Fifth Amendment 111 times, whether being pressed on COVID or questions as simple as, what day of the week is it? Fauci's attorney, David Shurtler, sat next to the former COVID-19 czar during the testy hearing and repeatedly tried to speak up after Senator Rand Paul suggested his client would face repercussions.
Let me pause that for a second. It is 111 times is a lot to have to repeatedly plead the fifth. Like, there must have been an instinct at him in some point to just sort of be like, the binder's blue. The binder's blue. I'm not doing this one.
Can't you? I'm surprised. I guess you can't legally, but I'm like, can't you just say I plead the fifth, and then there's a list of all the other things they want to accuse him of, and he just puts those, those two little things. When you want the same thing going down, you put the two little paragraph things.
Like, you'd think you would start trying to figure out like just sort of like flashing a 5 up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. I plead the fifth. You'd think you would want to start making fun. It also just shows you how silly the process is. Like, all of these people are kind of ridiculous because like they asked them 111 questions. Like, at what point does somebody finally just go like, I'll save the question? Like, I understand the idea of like hearing him not answer them has drama. 12, 13 questions of drama. 111 fucking questions. The drama is kind of sucked out of the room.
It's all the show, right? Everything is a show.
Because if they were really actually trying to get to the bottom of whether or not he did something, they're not doing it in front of us like this.
I know, yeah.
Like, they're not going to sit down in a room with camera. It's not going to be 5 jaw-dropping moments. Anthony Fauci is going to be quietly disappeared. Like, the idea that any of these people want this.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Rand Paul does. Maybe he does.
Seems like it does.
Apparently he's obsessed with it. Which, by the way, you should be obsessed with, right? There's a great Louis C.K. bit. I think he did it even maybe on SNL about abortion. And where he's like, I happen to think that like that's not like killing a baby or whatever. But it's like, but if you believe the other way, like, I get being that strongly convicted about it because you believe they're killing babies.
Yeah.
Which is like probably the worst thing you could do, right? So if you do believe the pro-life position, you kind of should be obsessed with it because it's like the worst thing you've ever heard of, like going on 100,000 times a day. So like, sure, that should eat up a little bit of your spare time. This should eat up a lot of our spare time. Like the fact that like, it's so embarrassing that comedy, we really did fail the moment with stand-up comedy in a lot of ways. Podcasting stepped in and did a fine job, but like stand-up really never delivered for COVID correctly. It never really took the moment and ran with it. It was a lot of just kind of dog whistle to certain things, but it never really whatever. Like, what's the great COVID bit?
It's a good question.
only real people who did bits about COVID kind of came from it from the left, and they weren't great bits because there really wasn't a lot of element of truth to them. They weren't really like pushing anything. They were sort of just eating the status quo and like not, they didn't really, it wasn't a lot of question raising coming from the left on that. And the right, there was griping about COVID, but I don't know that anyone had a bit that really summed up the moment in any way whatsoever. And now here we are 5 years later, and it's like a topic, like the moment COVID was done, if you came out and did a joke about COVID, people reacted like, oh God, just whatever. And you're like, guys, we just got out of 2 years of them essentially trying out the craziest experiment they've ever tried on us, and us kind of eating it, and then slowly finding out that probably none of this needed to happen, and somehow not being furious about all of it, and kind of just accepting it and moving on with our lives. Bank account, people that fought back, they had their bank accounts frozen. Like, it's all crazy. It's probably the most unjust thing. Not probably, because the war in Iraq and 9/11, like, I'm not going to call 9/11 the most unjust thing in the world. We did go there and kill a lot of them and stuff. So them kind of wanting to come back and do that to us is really not that. It's unjust. They shouldn't have. But I get it. Even with, I had to have this conversation or tried to have this conversation with a Jewish comedian in the city this week who posted something about, another Jewish restaurant or the second location of one of these Jewish restaurants got shot this week in Toronto. And it was like, do you see what the rhetoric does? And it was like, I don't think it's the rhetoric doing this. I don't think people are shooting at Jewish restaurants because people say that Jews are mean online. I think that people are shooting at Jewish restaurants. One, if you look at the list of names, maybe take a look at the list of names of the fellas who have been indicated in some of these anti-Jewish crimes. Let's not pretend that this is like a full cultural thing, right? I think you could probably pick up what I'm putting down. Yeah, like they tend to be
anti-Semitic.
I think 8 times a day they're pointing in the same direction, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, it's not fellas like me shooting at the Jewish restaurants.
Yeah.
It tends to be people who, by the way, and again, doesn't excuse what they're doing, but has anyone bothered to look into, did any of these people lose family in Gaza? Has any of these people lost family in southern Lebanon or the West Bank or in Jordan or in any of these places? I'm not saying they have. I don't know. I didn't do it. I didn't look into it either. I'll be transparent. I got no idea. But I think it wouldn't be crazy to think that possibly, at least tangentially, they were affected by what was going on there. I think it probably wasn't the rhetoric that caused Mawad al-Zahir to fucking shoot a Jewish restaurant. I'm not going to say it was the rhetoric, I think it might have been some of the shenanigans. The same way, I don't think that they did 9/11 because they hated our freedom. I think that they probably didn't enjoy that we killed their uncle or whatever at a wedding, So,
don't you ever think that's like displaced hate though? Like, I always look back, I'm like, for a bit I was like on the 9/11 thing, I'm like, very bad, but we do put our nose into things that, whatever. But then you bring up like there's so many countries that have their noses and they didn't do anything to those countries. So it's like, and also their own people they're kind of fucking with each other and stuff like that, but they don't,
Well, they do.
They do blow up
They
their own
do
people.
blow up each other. And listen, yes, there are countries that fiddle fuck around, but like Spain hasn't caused a problem in Iraq. You know what I mean? Like, it tends to be, yes, NATO countries get involved, and does Russia have its own interests in whatever? Yes, of course. But sorry, hold on one second. James McKenzie, everyone.
He's out there barking.
He was
like
at the
a
club.
soldier.
He was at the club, so I just wanted to get him over here then we'll head over there after.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm just saying. Usually, there's reasons for some of these things, and so what I don't even remember.
Well, we were talking about Fauci originally, and like, here's my thing though. Here's where I'll give him a pass. We don't believe in forgiveness anymore or anything like that, so he has to do this.
Well, this comes back to this world of litigation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is that part of the reason that I don't know that we don't believe in forgiveness?
Yeah. I don't think we
anymore.
do. I think forgiveness is dead.
I don't.
Besides on like a personal, like one to
But
one.
that's the thing. We're all a collection of personal things, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, if Kevin Spacey makes a great movie, everyone is making an individual decision whether or not we forgive them. Whether online we're a collective of whatever, and whatever your bubble is telling you the most of, that's what you feel like the collective has decided. But ultimately, individuals make those decisions. And so I think that a lot of people could be forgiven. Now, I don't think people are going to put pictures up of Anthony Fauci as if he's a saint. And ultimately, he's in a position where this isn't supposed to be famous. You're not supposed to be the famous fucking guy in charge of gain of function research. Like, this is not a guy where in most situations we ever know his name ultimately.
Yeah. But if you read it, I heard his journal entries. He loves fame.
Yeah, he also, like, this is also the hero of the left and was a guy that, like, instructed people not to shake hands with people with AIDS back in the 80s. Like,
Sure. You shouldn't, though.
Yeah,
you shouldn't.
yeah.
That's disgusting.
Not
More because they were touching cocks.
Not because you're going to get AIDS, but mostly because you should show them a lack of societal shame.
Yeah.
So it's like when
You're a dirty person.
When in black comedy, a guy bombs, the host won't shake his hand. It's like an old superstition. The host won't touch him after you bombed. It's very fun. Black people rule.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun. I like that.
Yeah. You got a fake name and you bomb and you don't get touched. What a night. But anyways, he shouldn't be famous. Like, it shouldn't be whatever. I just can't believe we're over it. And all of these things we're now quibbling about, you can trace right back to this. Like, all of our modern, when was the last trans athlete who won a fucking race? I don't know. I feel like a trans athlete hasn't won a goddamn biking fucking championship or
they're slipping.
Where are these trans athletes at? I mean, Jesus Christ. The fall off has been historic with these guys. Like all the pre-COVID culture war shit has kind of like, not that like all of a sudden conservatives love trans people, but it's just sort of not their day anymore. Like, they don't wake up in the morning fucking furious about little girls with dicks.
I'll also slightly call out that one. I think they won. Not a full win, not a decisive win, but I think people hit a point where they were like, we don't want to hear about this anymore. And also, we probably don't think they should be athletes with women or whatever. And I'm not saying it's not still happening, but they won, so they that's why the right wing kind of moved on.
You see, but I don't even know if it's necessarily any of those things happen in that direction. The truth of the matter is the trans moment's just kind of over. And I don't mean that in the people who are trans and still trans today don't deserve rights and whatever.
Yeah.
It's that, like, sort of, guys, there was a parasitical, not that trans people are parasites, parasocial thing going on there. There isn't all of a sudden all these trans people.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these folks were just gay. A lot of these folks were something else. A lot of these folks were just depressed. And again, I've said before, I think a lot of the trans suicide rate thing, people just weren't, it never got lower. It didn't matter how many parades and shows and whatever. It never got lower, the trans suicide rate, because ultimately the trans suicide rate stems far more from people making a very serious decision that ultimately didn't make them feel more comfortable in their body and not really knowing where to go from there. And that's very sad. And, like, I feel for the people and their families and God bless. But to pretend like it was like we bullied trans people existed for like 5 minutes in everybody's minds before they were like, you're bullying them to death. And you're like, dude, I've never even met one of y'all. Like, and I think we're back to, like, listen, I run at this point, a successful goth bar in a way. And, and
I
so,
told you. I want credit for that. I told you had your first goth show. I wasn't even there, and I said, I feel like this is your bread and butter. And
really, if we were just sort of an every night goth bar, I'd probably be doing much better. But we got a lot of them. You know, we got some trans folks in.
Yeah.
And that community there's an overlap in those communities for sure. And but like, there's nobody that I've ever looked at in our trans community and gone, you faker. There's no one that I'm looking at like, this is a phase. And there was a period of time that we all knew a trans person that went, and you went, that's kind of a phase, I think. Like, and that's just not a thing. It's not all of them. It's not. It doesn't mean there's not going to be new trans people. Like, there will continue to be new trans people, but I think probably at a rate that makes sense for everybody. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing is with these conservatives is if your kids aren't coming home and going, I'm trans, you kind of don't actually give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really give a fuck who won the swim meet if your kid's not in the swim meet. Ultimately, you don't actually, when the Cuban fucking baseball players were all 17 playing 13-year-olds, nobody made it like their whole life to be like, oh my God, the fucking Cuban kids have mustaches. Like, it wasn't like our whole thing. So, like, I think once and these things move fast. Let's not forget, right? Guns N' Roses, it was 87. By 89, Nine Inch Nails was dropping Pretty Hate Machine, completely warping Axl Rose's mind. By 92, that's the end of Guns N' Roses. That's 5 years. And we're on to grunge, and we're on to whatever. Grunge lasts to 96, and then fucking he pops himself in the head. Like, these things turn over crazy fast. So to go like trans had its moment, I mean, if you put it into a similar category to grunge, which, let's be honest, that's kind of what it was for a moment. Yeah, it kind of makes sense that moment would now be over with, sort of. And it doesn't mean that you didn't go to high school with a kid that was grunge, right?
Yeah,
you knew grunge kids, right? I knew goths. It wasn't that they weren't in their moment. Like, not everybody was goth. It wasn't like everyone had this sort of... but there was goths.
Yeah.
There was, you know... We had our little subsections. And now my version of high school would be... there's like the 4 trans that all hang out together and like, you know, whatever. So, and that's a healthy place for it to be. And that's, by the way, trans people, where you want to be. Why do you want to be the topic of conversation the whole goddamn time? Like, if you actually really want to just be normal and enjoy your life, stop being the topic of conversation. And I know ultimately it wasn't all you doing it. Like, there was a lot of pushback that was forcing you to be the topic of conversation in a way I'm sure you didn't want to be, but you could also just didn't need. I don't think you were raping the kids at the library. Like, ultimately, I don't think that's what was happening. I don't think you were like, let's go read to them because maybe eventually we could fuck their butts. I don't think that's what was happening, but I do think it was unnecessary. I do think that, like, you got to look at things in PR terms, right? Where are we at on this? Okay.
Yep.
PR is important. I'm a big believer in, well, what are the goals here, right? It's one thing to appear empathetic. I think it's more important to understand and have stated goals towards that empathy, okay? There's a lot of... that's good. But so what do you really want for trans people, right? I want people who are genuinely feel like they were born in the wrong body to be able to, first of all, express those feelings without criticism, with an open mind. My personal belief is we shouldn't be giving them hormones and things to the age of 18. I have a rule for myself. I think if you're not old enough for a tattoo, you're not old enough for a pussy. I think that's a fair thing.
I mean, to own one.
To own one, yes.
Yeah.
Like if you were
You're okay
born
with
with the
17
pussy,
of them.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But I don't think you should be able to change your genitals if you can't tattoo yourself. I think that is a reasonable thing. I also think the argument against that is kind of strange. I will say, I don't think the drag queens in the library were pedophiles. However, I would say there is something very odd about the argument that's made for why underage people should be given hormones. And that is that they make them more passable. That is, to the best of my knowledge, the often cited argument for why you would have somebody take puberty blockers. So it is strange that your argument is we have to take the risk with children that they might have made a life-altering decision at a time in their life where they weren't developed enough to fully make it so that they're more fuckable. It is odd that that is their fuckability in question that we are like protecting, you know, because we're like, if you become trans at 18, you might not be that fuckable. We need these trans to be fully fuckable. So, you know, we got to risk it.
You got to start it early.
You know what I mean? Like we got to transition them at 13 or else, you know, who's going to want to fuck this thing?
Yeah.
So, but anyways.
It'd be similar to like telling your kid to work out early on, and instead of saying it's for health, being like,
no one's gonna fuck you if you don't have a six pack. Yeah, it's a strange message to send. I think PR is important. I think that you need to think about what your objective goals are, and sometimes the things you're doing aren't actually leading to the objectives you think they are. I think it is a nice thought that you could go to the library as a drag queen and read to children, and that was going to be positive. However, I think the ultimate outcome of that was that you turned many more people off of your movement, and it had negative repercussions for you. So why do it, right? During third wave feminism, when it was on to, remember man spreading and things like that, where you were like, this is ultimately going to turn everybody off of what you're saying. Why do it? There becomes a moment where the PR of some, you know, I had a nice conversation with a Jewish friend about what my thought. He pigeonholed me into having a conversation about my thoughts on what was going on and why people felt this way about the Jewish people. And I had to go, hey, listen, it's bad PR. You know, you could think what you want about what you're doing over there and the righteousness of it and why biblically it has to happen and you want the third temple and blah, blah, blah. This is bad PR. Like, if you don't want people to be mad at Jews, maybe stop murdering folks and people won't be mad at Jews anymore. You got to kind of, and there are inverse things, right? And I'll leave on this one about the Berlin Pride attack this week. Are you familiar? Berlin, Germany. There was a Pride festival this week, and similarly to the fellas attacking the Jewish restaurants in Toronto, similar last name, we'll say.
Okay,
attacked this Pride festival. Young guy, Muslim extremist, and what he doesn't realize, much like the conservatives who cry about the trans things and the trans people who show up to the whatever, that the loudness of their argument has unintended consequences. Pride has gotten boring. It's corporate. It's not fun, and it feels safe. You know, I was at a Motley Crue concert a week ago, and I'll tell you what, I actually felt much less safe at the end of the night than I would have if I was at a Pride festival, right? A thing that used to be a protest movement. And so what the unintended consequence of this young Muslim boy is that next year's Berlin Pride will be fun again. And it is tragic that people lost their lives. I'm not saying that the loss of life was worth it. Ultimately, this young man's loss of life, the people who lost their life in his attack, no one's life is worth being lost. However, I mean, people are going to come to party next year, and Berlin has been lacking on partying for a while now. Berlin's party scene has been, and I think that possibly this terror attack was what Berlin needed to be Berlin again. And that's why I think you got to think about the PR of your actions. And that's it for the week. Thank you guys very much. That's Rob Loves Arguing. Goodbye.